Welcome, everyone, to another edition of VOM Live presented by the Voice of Morgantown Network on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe today. On today's episode, we're talking basketball. I know everyone's looking forward to basketball this season, especially with everything unfortunately going on in the football world. But I do believe we have a lot of optimism around basketball, obviously. This is Ross Hodges' first year in Morgantown. Ren Baker hiring his former guy at North Texas. And like I said, think there's a lot to look forward to. I think Ross Hodge is a culture builder. And I think something that I've talked about before, but we saw on the women's side of things, right, with Dawn leaving that one time for Minnesota and then getting Kellogg in. I think we can have something very similar with the DeVries to Ross Hodge. I think it's very important to get culture guys here in Morgantown and guys that stick with us and have a loyalty. So let's talk about the starting lineup because we are, give or take 2 weeks away. I can't believe how close we're getting to November 4th and that crossover season between football and basketball. Usually it's a lot of fun, but when your football team's not doing so well, I guess kind of all eyes then become on basketball. So there's some different guys floating around for the starting roster. I know there was that, I'll say, secret scrimmage against Maryland. So I do think what you can take from the secret scrimmage is optimism. Of course, you want to hear good things coming out from that. But at the same time, too, it's a scrimmage. You don't necessarily know what these coaches, their plan is for it. Sometimes you're just trying out different guys. So I think it's important to remember, hey, yeah, get optimistic about it, be happy about it, but don't hold too much weight on it either. It's like preseason football, right? It only really counts when the games are going. So all that aside, in my opinion, I think there's 4 guys that we know are going to be starting with the starting 5. Now, my 4, I think, are going to be different than everyone else's 4 or 5. But here, I'll explain why in a second. I think it's no secret. Point guard, Jasper Floyd, one of Ross Hodges' guys at North Texas. 2, Honor Huff. Apparently, he's been doing very well, shooting lights out. I don't think we're surprised. I'm going to go to the 4 because I think the 3, the shooting forward position, the small forward position, I think that's where we're going to get some differences of opinion. But power forward, Brennan Laurent, another Ross Hodge guy from North Texas. And then the 5 is going to be Harlan Obiha. Give me a second, too. I'm working on pronunciations. It's my preseason as well. But he's going to start at the center. So let me address the center first before I get to the small forward. I think from everything I understand and all the research I've done on Harlan is apparently he's a solid center. He's athletic. He's very capable, not just a single skill set. Like apparently he's very dynamic and I look forward to seeing him. However, like a lot of big men, the question is their stamina, right? I mean, he's playing Big 12 basketball now. It's the thing for everyone at every position. It's the best league in college basketball. So, you got to be in shape at this position, at least play your way into shape through the non-con. So I see him at first being I'll call it the every other TV timeout guy. So he'll start the game. We'll get to the under 16 timeout. He'll go sit on the bench. Under 12, come back in, under 8 bench, and then finish out the last 4 minutes, first half, come back out, second half. And second half might be a little different. Obviously, fouls become a thing in the second half. A lot of adjustments by then, depending on the score towards the end of the game. That's when coaches use most of their timeouts. So for the most part, I'll say until that last 8 minutes in the second half, it's going to be kind of that every other type of timeout for the center. So here's where I think I differ from a lot of other people. Small forward. I think a lot of people right now have Trayson Eaglestaff at the small forward position starting. I don't. I have Chance Moore starting there. From everything I can tell, Chance's numbers are better. He comes from the A10 as opposed to the Summit. Bonnie's very good, capable team. North Dakota last year, not so much. So I think Trayson, I'm glad we have him on our team Eagle staff. I think he's going to be a very capable player. And hopefully when he does play, he does some great stuff for us. The concern with him is defensive liability, right? Is this year's team, we're going from, we were small last year under DeVries, but that's okay when you have an offensive-minded coach. We have a defensive-minded coach now. It's kind of back to that Hugs mentality, that blue-collar West Virginia, we're going to grind it out on defense mentality. And so I think with that, you got guys in the, the 1 and 2, with Jasper and Honor Huff, and I think they're capable guys and should be okay on defense. I just worry about their size, right? And so you don't want to give up too much liability, even in the starting lineup on the defensive, side. And I think that's why you got to put Chance Moore in there. If I'm not mistaken, the guys, I think he's 6'6", which is pretty solid, for a guard. And then I think you could have Eagle staff coming off the bench as the 6th man. And I think he's that guy that can get a lot of momentum going. You're in a defensive fist fight, close game. And then, all right, under 16 timeout, go off Eagle staff. We'll go a little smaller. Let's get a couple threes in a row, get back going, and then, play from there. Another guy that I think going to come off the bench, Jackson Fields, the other forward, another who I believe very capable guy. And I think his timing is going to be crucial to the success of the team, depending when he comes off the bench. So the question then becomes kind of what I talked about earlier in this episode is the center position in Harlan. Like, when he's playing, what does the lineup look like? When he's not playing, what does the lineup look like? And depending on his stamina, foul trouble, right? Ideally, you want him in the game as much as possible. Defense, right? Big man in there. But you're going to kind of have to assume, depending on the game, there are going to be games where we may be without him, gets 2 or 3 fouls early, still kind of winded, getting up his stamina in the game. And I think in those situations, I think you're going to have, obviously, Brennan Lawrence going to stay in there as a forward, but then you're going to have Jackson Fields a lot that you're going to have to rely on. And then I think it's going to be a back and forth, like I said already, between Chance Moore, Trayson Eaglestaff, and then, of course, you have Amari Jenkins in there. And then I apologize because I'm going to butcher this. Like I said, it's my preseason too, but then you also have the South Carolina transfer and Morris Ugg. So apologize. I'll get better at that. But the guard position's pretty solid. I'm really not worried about that at all. You have plenty of guys that can rotate in there. And the question is going to be more the starters, who's better coming off the bench, and when do you need to be defensive minded and when do you need to offensive minded. I think Ross Hodge will do an excellent job of, putting that in place, figuring it out. And the good thing is he'll have time in the non-con to put that together. I think what it's going to come down to, and the success of this team is going to come down to, is balancing the forward position and, the center position, and what balance of that, keeping guys in there. Do you want to play a third guard and 2 forwards? You could even go 3 guards, 1 forward, 1 center, and 2 guards, 2 guards, 3 forwards. The mix there is going to be crucial, especially in the second half, that 8-minute going into the 4-minute TV timeout, of how that's going to be handled. So, like I said, I think the importance of this episode is right, the starting lineup. And of course, that's very, very important. And I think I want to make something clear too. My argument is Chance Moore is going to be a starter over Trayson Eaglestaff. But that doesn't mean because you're not a starter that you're not less important than another guy. I think sometimes that 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th man coming off the bench, but especially the 6th man, can sometimes have a bigger role than some guys that are starting. Sometimes it's just right place, right time, come off that bench. They don't see it coming. And you're, next thing you know, someone like Eaglestaff has 2 or 3 pointers in and you're up 10 points. Other teams calling timeout. And then you can kind of go back to that defensive mentality. So it's going to be all about Ross Hodge's coaching style and how he sees the game go on. But I do think defense is going to be a first priority. So even though we have capable offensive members on this team, you may not see those guys till a little later in the game. So, like I said, I think it's going to be Jasper Floyd, Honor Huff, Chance Moore, Brennan Laurent, and Harlan Obiha. And I think right there you have a solid starting lineup. You have a very capable bench. And I mean, I think that will be another question on this team is how deep can this bench go? But I mean, as of now, I think you got 8, 9, maybe 10, depending on Abraham and the other center there. So, I mean, and we can use all the big men we can get. So hopefully he's able to play up to Big 12 standards. So, hey, I think this team's going to do well in the non-con. I think like every West Virginia team, the question comes, how well is Big 12 play? Those late January, early February games, is the team able to start making a run there? Do they have their legs underneath them? How's their stamina doing? And like always, I think it's going to come down to that critical period. The good thing about the Big 12, as we know, obviously we want to win. We want to do our best. But if you can go 7-11 and have a solid non-con and, get a win or two in the Big 12 tournament, I mean, that's a tournament team right there. So, I mean, I guess that's the goal for this season. I mean, it's really important too. A top 4 seed is going to be very tough in the Big 12, but at least a top 8 seed, so you at least get one bye in the tournament. But I think we're in for a good basketball season. It'll definitely have its ups and downs. I mean, when you play 30 plus games, you're going to have your ebbs and your flows. But as long as these guys can play when it's critical, and potentially be a bubble team and get us back to March Madness, I think we're right back on track. So really looking forward to the basketball season, as I know all of you are. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Let's go Mountaineers.
Some Morgantown, we break it first. WVU pride, we quench your thirst. No spin, all truth, loud and proud. Mountaineer nation, say it loud. The voice of Morgantown. VO.